Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Many thanks to also, of course, to all the members of our community who will join later on or will watch video of this stream afterwards. Today is 6th of June. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, and because I didn't receive no question or the comment through support platforms, PayPal, Boosty, that I can highlight after new segment. I will make new segment, and if there will be any super chat on Rumble during the stream, I will react on it. If not, then I will end the stream on that. And so, without further delay, let's go through some news. Today I'm a little short on time, so I will try to make this stream as short as possible. So, well, first of all, I'll give you this news that, according to RIA Novosti and many other media outlets, air defense systems on duty intercepted 174 Ukrainian drones that were launched to strike deep into Russian territory by Kyiv regime, obviously with assistance of NATO member states. Drones were intercepted over Bryansk, Rostov, Saratov, Voronezh, Kaluga, Kursk, Orlovsk, Ryazan, Tula, Belgorod, Tambov, Moscow regions, and also over the Crimean Peninsula. So quite a large-scale attack on Russia by NATO and NATO proxy Kyiv regime. Unfortunately, some of the drones did manage to bypass air defense systems. It seems like, although this is not official information, but based on reports on some Telegram channels, unfortunately, there were some strikes on a number of directions. For example, in angles, according to reports that I see, some manufacturing plant was hit. Reports are coming in about strikes on some energy infrastructure. Probably later on we will learn some more about this quite large-scale attack of NATO on Russia, and of course I will share additional information on my Telegram and Twitter X page. But it's not just the Kyiv regime, but Russian armed forces also conducted a quite large-scale strike on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, and explosions were heard all over the Kyiv controlled territory, including inside the Kyiv itself. At this point, we don't really have much detailed information about what exactly was targeted or how effectively, but based on reports that I see on different channels, different sources on the Telegram and other platforms, explosions were heard just about everywhere in the western parts of Ukraine, in the Lvov area, for example, and also in the south, in Odessa region, in the north, Kharkov, for example, Chernigov. So it was a quite a large-scale Russian strike on military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, and there are some members of our community may ask question: is this a retaliatory strike of Russia for a recent attack by NATO on Russian nuclear triad, by NATO and NATO proxy Kyiv regime on Russian nuclear triad? And well, my answer would be yes and no, because I think these strikes, these Russian strikes, can be beginning of the series of steps that Russia will take as a response, as a retaliation for attacks on Russian nuclear triad. So therefore, more strikes to be expected on Kyiv-controlled territory, I think. And once investigation is concluded and the Russian side will, Russian leadership will have final answers, I think some concrete steps will be taken against countries, against NATO member states that were behind those attacks on Russian nuclear triad. And we know which countries I'm talking about, right? It's UK and US. First of all, it's UK and US, because no one in this world believes that Kyiv regime pull off that attack without any assistance from the NATO. Probably vast majority of our community is on the same page with me on that. And I think Russian leadership already has enough information to have preliminary conclusions, let's say, because, for example, Russian representative in UN, Polyansky, during the interview with RT, made a statement that clearly visible that Western intel services, particularly British, were involved in Zelensky's terror attacks on Russia. So this is said by high-ranking Russian official, representative deputy of the permanent representative of Russian Federation in UN. And I think we can take this statement from Polyansky as Moscow's stance right now. So once investigation will come up with the final conclusions, obviously we should expect certain steps to be taken by Moscow in regards to whichever countries from NATO were behind these attacks. Still, I don't think Moscow will authorize direct strikes on either US military assets or the British military assets if investigation will conclude that these countries were behind this attack on Russian nuclear triad. But as I said, plausible deniability that US and London, Washington and London can exercise now while saying that they were not informed, they didn't knew nothing. Well, this plausible deniability can be played by both sides. So I think Russia will obviously retaliate, but while maintaining plausible deniability. So it's anybody's guess what this retaliation is going to be and when and on what scale. But scale will be significant enough because attack on Russian nuclear triad was very significant, right? It's the first time when basically, it's first time since the Second World War, one may argue, when nuclear countries, US and UK, attacked another nuclear country through third party, but still. So obviously, one way or another, but Russia will take some actions while maintaining plausible deniability. But first, obviously, I'm 100% sure about it, that Moscow will wait for the conclusions of the investigation. And in upcoming days, probably we will have that conclusion. To continue, dear friends, RT is reporting, and other media outlets also here in Russia, that Moscow bans British consuls. So the Russian Prosecutor General's office has banned the British consul from operating in the country, accusing it of spreading LGBTQ propaganda and undermining Russia's domestic and foreign policy. And according to some reports that I see, British consul was also engaged in intelligence operations. They were recruiting, yet again, according to some reports that I see, they were engaged in recruiting of assets for British intelligence. And it is unfortunate that this criminal organization, British Council, was banned just now, not years ago, but only now. Anyways, it's better to do now than never, right? So probably some additional threats from London will be avoided as a result of this decision. Vzгляд newspaper is also reporting that Kremlin assures of the inevitability of the response to Ukraine's airfield strikes. As I already said, the Kremlin indicated that the decision on the time and the method of Russia's response to the strikes on airfields, strategical airfields on Russian nuclear triad that happened a couple of days ago, will be made by the military command, taking into account their situation. Russia will respond to Kiev's attack on airfields within the time frame and the manner that the military deem appropriate. This is Peskov's statement. And Peskov is, of course, press spokesman of the Russian president. And as I said, by the way, I personally have no doubts that Moscow will retaliate. But when it comes to Kiev regime, this retaliation will be publicly acknowledged. When it comes to retaliation against potentially other countries, let's say UK and US, for example, potentially France and Germany too, who knows. Retaliation against other countries that potentially were involved in these attacks on Russian nuclear triad will be conducted with in a way that Moscow will maintain plausible deniability, as Washington and London did while attacking Russian airfields. If anybody thinks that Moscow will just ignore that attack and continue as if nothing happened, then it's just not possible. Russian nuclear deterrent was targeted, was hit, and this is a big deal. This is a big deal, and obviously retaliation will be also big. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that, according to media reports, Malian military accuses Ukrainian Defense Ministry's main intelligence directorate of supporting a terrorist. Yet another accusation of Kyiv regime of terrorist activity, this time from African nations. Our main intelligence directorate of the Ukraine's Defense Ministry is involved in a training and supporting terrorists in Mali, Faso and Bamada, right, citing a military investigation. And we knew it for quite a while now, isn't it? That France, especially France, by the way, is using France and also London quite actively using assets, their assets from Ukraine to arm and train their terrorists, all sorts of terrorist groups in African nations, in African countries. And unfortunately, until Kyiv regime is not eliminated completely, which is definitely going to happen, well, they will continue to be engaged in a training and their weapons delivery and munition delivery to all these terrorist groups under supervision of French and British military intelligence. US also, of course, US CIA, oversees all these operations. They all are engaged in this terrorist activity together. RIA Novosti is also reporting that Poland establishes Day of Remembrance for victims of the genocide conducted by Ukrainian Nazis, own and UPA, Ukrainian Nazi organizations. And the Kyiv regime was outraged because of this decision of Polish parliament. But, well, maybe surprisingly for some, especially in the West, that only takes information from Western propaganda. Warsaw is finally forced, I guess, by public to acknowledge that Ukrainian Nazism is an issue, and a big issue, and was an issue for quite a long time, even during the Second World War, when Ukrainian Nazis, according to reports, killed more than 100,000 Poles. Some reports suggest even 200,000 Poles. And also Jews, by the way, Russians, and all the other ethnic groups, while cooperating with their Nazi Germany. Let's go for details here. The Polish Sejm has established a new state holiday, Day of Remembrance of Poles, victims of the genocide committed by OU and UPA, Ukrainian Nazi organizations, in the eastern lands of the Second Polish Republic. The official Sejm account on the social network Facebook states, we have a quote from this statement: the Sejm has established a new state holiday, July 11th. July 11th will become the National Day of Remembrance of Poles who were victims of the genocide committed by Ukrainian Nazis in the eastern lands of Second Polish Republics. It is also explained that in 1939-1946, Ukrainian nationalists from the organizations of Ukrainian Nazi groups, Ukrainian Insurgent Army, and Ukrainian nationalist formation formations operating in their terrorist territories of their eastern borders of their Second Polish Republic, Volyn, Ternopil, Stanislav, Lvov, Police, voivodeships, as well as the current Lublin and Subcarpathian voivodeships, committed the crime of genocide against the Poles. Sorry, dear friends, I butchered Polish pronunciation of these areas. But yes, this is Warsaw, by the way. This is not Moscow is saying. This is Warsaw is saying that, well, they will now on July 11th remember people that were massacred by Ukrainian Nazis from 1939 to 1946. And this information most likely becomes as a sort of surprise for people in the Western world, if they will even hear this news from the Western MSN, right? Because probably they've been told all these years that this topic of Ukrainian Nazism and fascism is just a false narrative that was created by Moscow. I mean, really? Tell about it, Polish people that remember and knows perfectly well what Ukrainian Nazis were doing to Poles also. RT meanwhile is reporting that, well, Ukraine has gone over budget for its military. According to finance minister, Ukraine does not have enough money to fund its military and will have to overhaul this year's budget in order to close the gap. Finance minister Sergei Marchenko has admitted the shortfall had previously been estimated at around 10-12 billion US dollars. And you guessed who's gonna pay this bill, by the way. It's taxpayers from US and taxpayers from European countries, isn't it? They will pay this bill, by the way. Another 10-12 billion dollars. No questions asked, because no one will ask question, right? Did we ever see either in US or in Europe or any other collective Western country, be in Australia or New Zealand, for example, did ever there was any large-scale demonstrations with demands that taxpayers' money should be kept in the country and invested inside the country? No, it never happened. Small groups of informed people, small minority, yes, tries to be active and to wake their public, but unfortunately they are failing big time. So therefore, no doubts about. No doubts in my mind that collective Western and Western elites will finance Kiev regime's defense ministry. To continue, dear friends, it's not just militaries that Kiev regime is unable to fund, but, well, they cannot service their debt, right? And so Ukraine's credit rating was downgraded to a D for default. So S&P Global dumps its rating on the GDP-linked securities after Zelensky failed to make a June $665 million payment. Kiev admits it can't pay, asks for debt restructuring. And yet again, who's going to pay this money, by the way? Of course, taxpayers of the collective West countries, right? Because Zelensky not going to pay for nothing, right? And when taxpayers of European countries and US or Canada or New Zealand, Australia will send their billions hard-earned money paid as a taxes, when this money will be sent to Kiev regime, obviously, Zelensky will have an opportunity to buy some more mansions, by the way. Yesterday, I reported on my Telegram and Twitter X page that he brought to his mom $3.2 million apartment, I believe, in the Burj Khalifa in Dubai on a birthday, 74th birthday that was in 2024. So who paid for that? Yet again, taxpayers of European countries and countries from collective West. So yes, man, while this whole tragedy continues that was provoked by Western ruling class globalists, well, these elements, these type of elements like Zelensky and their so-called elites in the West, also military industrial complex, they are getting richer and richer, by the way, filthy rich, right? On expense of, yet again, Western taxpayers. Hello everyone, I hope you find informative and useful this short clip from main news update, and if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything. It might help to deal with the algorithm and reach wider audience. And if you like my work in general and want to support to save this media project, you can assist through several ways. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform or Boosty, also with the crypto currencies, or you can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty, where I have quite a lot of extra content on regular basis. All the links are on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, many thanks to everyone who already helped and continues to support. Thank you.